The current economic crisis has been bad politically for John McCain. On September 14th, the day before Lehman Brothers died, McCain was up by 2 in the Gallup Daily Tracking Poll. Tonight, he's down by 6. McCain's had a year's worth of gaffes in about 10 days, followed by a fake suspension of his campaign, followed by taking credit for a bailout that didn't pass, oops, plus increasing embarrassment and worry over his choice of running mate, plus plunging poll numbers. It's all amounted to something like a campaign implosion. But what if the implosion of the Republican nominee's presidential campaign is just the start? Could the economic crisis be taking down the whole Republican Party as well? I don't mean to sound dramatic, but can you tell me what the Republican Party is right now, what they stand for, who leads it, even who has influence? Let's map it out, TV style. Somewhere over here, you have President Bush. He's somewhere vaguely left in the spectrum right now, believe it or not. For better or lately for much worse, he technically is the Republican Party's current leader. This morning, the president delivered yet another speech to the nation, urging the swift passage of his bailout plan. So Republican president for the bailout. Okay, fine. President Bush is on the way out. He's a lame duck, etc., and so forth. Then there's John McCain. He's running for president by trying to put as much distance as possible between himself and President Bush. Let's put John McCain somewhere over here. He's hard to place right or left, but he has to go somewhere near President Bush tonight because he's also in favor of the bailout plan. Here's John McCain tonight talking to our own Kelly O'Donnell.
We haven't been able, obviously, yesterday, to convince some members of Congress, 95 Democrats as well as a lot of Republicans, that this is not a, quote, bailout for Wall Street.
So if Senator McCain, along with 65 House Republicans, supports the bailout, what is the Republican National Committee doing running a new ad like this today?
Meltdown. Wall Street squanders our money, and Washington is forced to bail them out with, you guessed it, our money. Can it get any worse?
So Senator McCain supported the bailout, but the Republican National Committee is opposed to it? The RNC followed that ad up with this doozy.
John McCain fought to rein in Fannie and Freddie. The Post says McCain pushed for stronger regulation, while Mr. Obama was notably silent. But Democrats blocked the reforms. Loans soared. Then the bubble burst.
Wait a minute. John McCain was for regulation and Barack Obama and the Democrats were against it? But,
I am concerned about the threat of excessive regulation.
Take a weed whacker to excessive regulation and mandates.
And we need less regulation.
Less regulation and less regulation.
So Republicans are for regulation or against it? It's confusing. It's hard to know where to put the Republican National Committee on our handy-dandy little map because they seem kind of all over the map. What they don't appear to be is with John McCain or President Bush, at least on the bailout plan. Then we have the House Republicans. Their leader, John Boehner, explained the defeat of the bailout bill, which he supported, this way.
We've put everything we had into getting the votes to get there today. But the Speaker had to give a partisan voice that poisoned our conference, caused a number of members that we thought we could get to go south.
Got that, Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi? Your speech was the reason the bailout died. Unless you ask Republican Congressman John Shadegg.
It was embarrassing for leadership of both parties to lose the bill, so they went out and made a stupid claim. But I don't know a single person who changed their vote on the basis of that or would have.
Congressman Shadegg was one of many House Republicans who turned on their leader, John Boehner, today. But if members disagreeing with their leader isn't enough to make your head hurt, how about a member of Congress disagreeing with himself? That's the situation House Republican Minority Whip Roy Blunt found himself in. He said this yesterday after the bailout bill was defeated.
Well, we thought we had a dozen more. I think, unfortunately, too many of our members were already on the floor when they heard that late speech by the Speaker.
But then just hours later, Roy Blunt told ABC News, quote, "I think you don't want to give too much blame to that speech." So where to put the House Republicans on the map? Not with Senator McCain or the president or their leader or in some cases, even themselves, they're kind of bouncing around like a Super Bowl at this point. For the sake of this pretty picture, let's randomly put House Republicans here. The point is the Republican Party is in disarray. And the problem with that, in the middle of a crisis, is that no one has any idea what the Republican strategy is to solve the crisis. The cynical among us might think the Republican strategy is just to let the Democrats vote for something and then run against that thing, whatever it is, come November. The U.S. Senate just announced tonight that it will vote on the financial bailout rescue, insert euphemism here, plan tomorrow evening. Senators McCain, Obama, and Biden will be there. More on the effect of all of this on John McCain and Barack Obama in just a moment. But the urgent question is, what's happened to the Republican Party? What's the Republican plan? I mean, other than to try to make the Democrats look bad. Time to get some answers. Joining us now is Republican Congressman John Culberson of Texas. He voted against the bailout bill yesterday. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Rachel, it's good to be with you.
There's a little breaking news tonight. There's a late report just in that Congressman Boehner, the House Republican leader, supports a revised rescue plan. He supported the original plan as well. If this late breaking report is true, what impact do you expect on House Republicans from John Boehner's endorsement of this deal?
Well, Rachel, I can tell you that I, as a fiscal conservative, as a Republican, follow my core principles. I'm do my best. The way I analyze my job, I try to do the right thing for the right reasons. I am a father. I try to be a good father and a good husband, and then my job as a congressman falls into place. So I'd urge you, Rachel, and everyone in the media, not to analyze the most urgent economic problem the nation has faced since the Great Depression in terms of who's for or against it. This isn't a football game. We're talking about the safety and security of the economic safety of the entire nation. I would urge us to look at the details of the plan that was in front of us. The reason that I voted against it, and so many other Republicans did, is that it was fundamentally a bad plan and not the best solution. And the Republican solution, Rachel, was one that is very straightforward and simple. For that nationalizing and socializing the investment banking system should be our last choice. Our first choice was to come in, for example, why don't we get rid of the mark-to-market accounting rule, which Chris Cox can do with a stroke of a pen tonight. The chairman of the Security and Exchange Commission, Rachel, can restore trillions of dollars of value to investment banks all over the world simply by changing that rule and going to market valuation. And then secondly, very quickly, let me say we should change the FDIC insured limit from $100,000 to $250,000 and then take a breath. Those two things could be done right away before we launch into nationalizing and socializing the banking system. The only way we're going to get to a better bill, Rachel, was for us to vote against this bad bill, give us time to catch our breath, and solve this problem, which has got to be solved promptly.
I appreciate the specificity of the proposal to change that one accounting rule. I have to admit, though, that the source of my confusion, which you heard in my lead-up to this interview, is that we're hearing John Boehner, the president, John McCain, other people who have a good claim based on their job titles to be the leaders of the Republican Party, saying that Republicans will support the Paulson plan, even as it has evolved over the last few days. But then House Republicans, such as yourself, voted 2-1 against it. And I guess I don't know who's the leader of the Republican Party right now. Is it President Bush? Is it Senator McCain? I wondered last night if it was Congressman Eric Cantor. He voted for the bailout. Who's the leader?
I think that each one of us as Republicans follow our core principles to do our best, to do the right thing for the right reasons, to analyze I read the 110-page bill very carefully. When I see in there that the Secretary of the Treasury would be given unprecedented power to buy any financial instrument of any kind at any price, bailing out any financial institution anywhere in the world, we could use tax dollars. He could bail out a foreign investment bank with my tax dollars, and then not only that, he can go in and renegotiate any mortgage in the country. Now let that settle in. This bill gives the federal property manager authority to renegotiate every mortgage under the control of the Treasury Department. An unprecedented sweeping power, socializing the entire mortgage industry, the entire investment banking system. That is an unbelievable grant of authority that's unlike anything in our history, and there are other better solutions, Rachel. This is as simple as this. We were doing our best to do our job as representatives of our districts, to use our best judgment to solve the most urgent financial problem this nation has faced since the Great Depression. I've done my homework, I've listened to my district, and I'm going to approach this thoughtfully and carefully to do what not only is best to help solve the problem at Wall Street. I want a solution that's going to help the average American and help American businesses make sure that they can have access to credit. Individual Americans have access to credit without nationalizing or socializing the banking system and without giving the Treasury Secretary the ability to give away property, open up every mortgage in the country, rewrite those mortgages. We need to look at the details of the bill, Rachel, and I urge you, all Americans, read the bill. It's online. It's 110 pages. Read it carefully and realize what's at stake here. Let's solve the problem, not politicize it. Let's legislate for the next generation and not the next election, and I'm confident we'll solve this problem in a thoughtful, mature way that preserves the very best of America and what made this country great. That's why we voted the way we did.
Congressman John Culberson, Republican from Texas, thank you for your time tonight. I'm not sure that I understand better the divisions between the Republican Party, but I understand where you're coming from. I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
That's all right. Hey, it happens all the time.